Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis.
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
Good day and welcome to our podcast. This is CampHacker, episode 108, recorded on the 20th of April, 2018. On today's show, do this now to set your summer camp staff up for success. If you would like easy, automatic, free updates of our podcast, you can subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, or most other places you get your favorite podcasts. This week's CampHacker podcast is sponsored in part by camp pros like you who support the show on Patreon. If you've got even one good idea from the CampHacker podcast, you could show your support for the show for as little as $1 a month. That's right, even $1 a month plays a part in the production of every CampHacker podcast, and it helps us reach camp pros all around the world. For chipping in, you get some great rewards too, just like a Kickstarter campaign. Please go to patreon.com/CampHacker. Thanks for letting your awesome out, Camp Mavericks. We hope you enjoy the CampHacker show.
Hello, Camp Pros, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast. My name is Travis Allison. I'm a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant, and I help camps translate what they do so families insist on sending their children to summer camp.
My name is Dan Weir. I'm the Director of Camping Services at Frost Valley YMCA. Frost Valley is a year-round camp conference education facility up in the Catskill Mountains, about 2.5 hours from New York. And this is going to be my 22nd summer working at camp.
My name is Joe Richards. I'm the Executive Director at Pierce Williams Christian Center, which is a United Church of Canada summer camp and retreat facility. And we're located in Fingal, Ontario, about halfway between Detroit and Toronto.
My name is Angie Atkinson, and I am the camp director at Camp Lantern Creek, which is in East Texas, and we are an all-girls sleepaway creative leadership camp.
And my name is Patty Sampson, and I am in the process of starting my own camp in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and I'm also the co-founder of Patrick Marketplace.
And also a podcaster.
And also a podcaster.
Well, thank you for joining us for the first time, Patty. So you are beginning a camp. What's that process been like for you, starting from scratch?
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning experience. I keep saying it's both exciting and terrifying. I feel like I've jumped off a cliff without a parachute, but in the best possible way.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I'm learning a lot, connecting with my community and making great relationships. So it's been good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I see a lot of your organization in your background. For those listening and not watching on YouTube, Patty's got a good organizational several well-placed Post-it notes.
Do you know what? Those are all, I'm so happy. Those are all just like quotes to inspire me.
Well, honestly, if that works, that's awesome. A great idea. So, Patty, I wonder for you, what was your first moment that you really felt like camp is my thing? I could do this forever.
Oh, that's such a great question. I was never a camper. I started as a counselor at 18, and kind of immediately, like as soon as I arrived at camp and looked around and went, hey, wait a second, because I planned on becoming a teacher or a social worker. And then as soon as I realized I could still work with children and have an impact and not have to get them to sit still for hours a day kind of thing, I was like, you can do this for real as a career? I'm in. So from that moment.
That's brilliant. So Patty, the last thing, what is your podcast and how can we listen to it?
Oh yeah, it's the Rec Heads and Camp Nerds podcast, and you can find us on iTunes or Stitcher or go to our Patrick Marketplace website and find us there.
Brilliant.
And
Well,
Travis
thanks for being here, Patty.
Travis has been a guest. Check out his episode. It's awesome.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, and I'm really excited about the episode you've been promoting lately about alumni stuff with Jeff Bradshaw,
He's brilliant. Yeah.
He is very brilliant. I love Jeff. Awesome. Well, Angie, thanks for being back.
Yeah, happy to be here.
It's awesome. So tell us a bit about Lantern Creek. It's nice to have you after a long hiatus. My fault, not yours. Can you give us an overview of what Lantern Creek's mission is?
Yes. So we started 7 years ago. So this will be my seventh summer, and our mission is to really build girls to see and feel their own light, their own worth, and take it out into the world to make the world a better place. So we do that through a lot of work around art processing. So they will just get to create. We have everything from, I don't know, painting to woodworking and doll making and knitting, and it's all process based. It's not product focused.
Yeah.
I really love, we have a whole program called Rosie's Riveters, which is teaching our girls how to use power tools. So the other aspect is to really like break girls out of the mold that they can only be one thing, especially middle school girls. In their brains, they tend to just focus and say that they can only be like the girl that's a sporty girl or an art kid. So here we encourage them to rewire kind of their brains creatively so that they can do new things and be whoever they want to be. We do a lot of, we really like focus a lot on mentoring our staff as well. So our executive director, I really appreciate, she just lives that because she mentors me so well. And then we get to mentor our staff even through the rest of the year, way outside of what camp does. So that's one of my favorite things that we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming back, Angie. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we thought it would be time to address this coming summer. I mean, we've talked real specific and more general things, like things you need to think of, but this is something that I think applies to this summer. I wanted to ask the question of what should you be doing now to prep your staff for this coming summer? So what can you do in the for some of you, it's only a month now until staff arrives. Some of you, it's 2 months. What do you do in that last block of time to get your staff ready for the summer? And I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't have an opening more. I'm curious to know what you folks do.
So for me, I think the biggest thing that I focus on at this time of year is just to make sure that there's no questions left unasked and unanswered. So making sure they have all the information that's needed. And so as part of that, I kind of draw on questions that were asked previous years that I might have, forgotten to mention. So things like, what's the weather going to be like when we arrive at camp? So for my previous camp, it was a cold for the first month that you were there. And so we would tell them like, bring all of your long clothes and then, head home and bring your shorts and stuff when July starts. So just making sure, anticipate what they're going to ask and do a Q&A session or give them some sort of document or have a online chat, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So do you use a tool for them to chat beforehand and for you to communicate other than email?
Yeah. So typically we would do a Facebook group. And I know some other people do like Slack, that sort of thing, but that was never something that I did at the time, and who knows, in the future, maybe.
Right.
So,
right. Cool.
We've moved our staff entirely to Slack, and we found it's a communication issue. So this time of year to get our staff ready, it's all about communication, because what we're doing, like Patty says, is just sharing information, what is camp like and how can they talk to other staff. We moved away from Facebook simply because it's so crowded with other stuff that you sometimes get lost in the volume of stuff that's rolling through Facebook. And plus for documents, as you know, Travis, from the Summer Camp Pros group, it's difficult to do searches of old topics or to find old documents or to, somebody restarts a conversation. And on Slack, that's much more, for us, it's much more manageable as we go through. And the one thing that we've done this year differently than other years is we choose right now we're on 1 day a week where we send out a big update so that we're not interfering with all of the staff's time when something comes to our mind, right? So my camp director just puts it in on Wednesdays. He sends out a PDF full of stuff that the staff are supposed to read. And our theory is that right now it can wait until next Wednesday, right? We don't need to be intruding their time with an update, 10 o'clock on a Friday night because we thought of it at that moment. So,
right. And Joe, how do you, and I know that there's two of you sort of directly involved, but you also have your administrator, Shannon. Where do you store those ideas for the time that goes out once a week?
Right now, Matt is taking care of all of that. And if I have my own channel on Slack, so I have something called Joe's Thoughts, which we haven't forced anybody to join, but if I have thoughts, I just put it there. So those aren't staff updates per se. Staff updates tend to be things that are like, send in your police check, send in your health form, send in this, do that. Those are very specific. So Matt is responsible for taking care of all of that storage, and it tends to be him who's creating that document without much input from Shannon or myself.
Cool. As a side note, it's fun for me to keep using Matt's name in this thing because he has to edit our shows. So we keep using his name in vain. Hi, Matt. Thank you.
Hey, Travis. You're welcome.
Angie, what do you folks do?
So because we're a little bit smaller, my counselor staff coming in, I have 15 of them, makes Facebook still really conducive for us. And the way that I approach it is to really intentionally start building community with them. And I create a new Facebook staff group every year. So I might keep like files that I reshare year to year, but it's a brand new group every year. And we just started it this past week, and I always start with an intro video. So I ask everybody to post their own intro video, and just a little bit of basically like an icebreaker online. So they have to introduce themselves, and then I always ask a would you rather question. And then from there, I use it to communicate information, but really from sharing a why perspective. So I do a video on, we sing a lot at camp, like so much. So we include Dropbox, our songs, and our songbook, especially for the new staff, because it's really overwhelming. But I include a video of like why we sing. And then I also do a video on why we don't have tech at camp. And before that, we also do, with the three main directors, we do like an information and expectations. So that we're probably going to put out an ask from them once a week, once every other week, and they need to get back to us. I set expectations for how quickly they need to respond to email, and that they need to be checking their email and Facebook frequently. So it's just kind of building in some accountability and responsibility from that. And then the last thing that I just started last year that I found really beneficial is to start the conversation around self-care for them now. So what we were running into was that our staff were arriving at camp and really struggling with communication with people outside. So like with their friends, with their family, because they didn't know how to set up expectations with them before they arrived. So they didn't know, how to say like, I'm not available. And then they'd have, all that FOMO, and it was causing a lot of stress and anxiety for them. So we started last year with talking to them about time off and, giving them that information of like, here's when you will be on time off. I can give them like the specific between session dates, but telling them that they're not going to know their like daily time off until the week before, and that they like giving them like starting sentences of how to say that to their parents, because we were finding a lot of our staff were coming in and they were like, but my parents expect me to call them every day, and they ultimately can't when they're here.
Right.
So that was super helpful last summer that we're going to do again. Yeah.
That's so great. Wow, it's so thoughtful. Thank you, Angie.
Yeah. And we do, I do that, like I do those videos through Facebook Live within my group.
Right.
And the one in particular, the two actually that in particular that are really helpful is to do the time off one that way. And then we also do one on how to write lesson plans, because they're able to interact with us. Even if they can't catch it live, it just creates a slightly different feel to it.
Yeah.
I really like that aspect of Facebook.
Yeah, way better than just tech stuff. That's so great.
Yeah.
Dan, your staff communication is a different game than Angie's because you have such a much bigger staff.
Yeah.
But what are the things that you encourage your directors to do to get establish good stuff with them?
So I think that's probably the biggest difference. I was kind of taking notes from what everyone just said, and we're not doing anything revolutionary compared to what's already been described. But the biggest difference is that we're doing it where it's branched out, and we found that if there's you have large groups. So we have like one group on Facebook that is all of our staff, but really what they're hearing from is the group that is the one they're interacting with is their core group in work. So like they're interacting with the 10 people that they will interact with for majority of the summer the most. And then for the rest of what we're doing, it's really based on as a whole, like just more broadcasting and reiterating, not so much the paperwork. We try to use Facebook more as a hype machine and creating a sense of belonging than necessarily using it for employee paperwork or that sort of thing. We try to use all the employee paperwork more with email. So trying to do that distinguished difference of it. We don't have Slack partially because of our size and volume of it. To be frank, it's a lot for the amount of accounts we would need to get.
Yeah.
We are considering it, but that's kind of where we fall to it. I'm very conscious of not overwhelming our staff. So we're a large organization, meaning that we have a fundraising branch of our organization, and they will start with like getting emails from them right away. So I'm very conscious of making sure our messaging is about getting here and feeling a sense of belonging and not being overwhelmed, and tend to save most of the work for when they get here. At the same point in time, like I found a podcast episode from Dan Pink the other night that I really enjoyed. It was just looking at leading and innovating with excellence with Tom Peters. It's just a 20-minute conversation they have, and it's really like management 101. And I'm going to be emailing that later today to everyone that's managing people, just as love for you to listen to this and start getting into the mindset that you're coming in and taking care of people. So it's ultimately that balance of not overwhelming. Andrew was saying it well with talk about self-care. I think that starts with how we talk with our staff as well too, and how much we put out there. So I loved hearing that Joe was only doing posts once a week, because I do think you could easily overwhelm them without them knowing. And yeah, I mean, and people just don't forget that, like, I talk to my sister all the time. They're going through finals right now. They're starting to prep the end of their college season. Yep. And if you email something now, whether you had good intentions or not, you could break them, for lack of a better word, you know. And the last thing you want
at least break their brain anyway.
Yeah,
you don't want that either, but.
No, it's funny. Like I used to broadcast constantly and all the time. Yeah. And instead, what I do now is I say, like, if you want a constant update, we'll be posting to this one Facebook group. If you want to connect with your fellow employees that you're going to spend the most time with, or somebody use this group. And if you just want to stick to the important announcements, we'll be emailing those out to you directly, and you don't need to worry. So try to let them know what they could tune out if they wanted to now.
Yeah, Dan, it was really bored and brilliant by Manu Samarodi that made the choice, which is a book, and a choice to only do it once a week so that we weren't interrupting their time. And the major reason we went to one thing is solely because I had people texting me and emailing and then Facebook messaging me, and then they would bring up a conversation on a different channel, like on a different platform, and I'd be like, when did we talk about this? And so we made the decision. This is 3 years. We're 3 years into Slack only. The concept is, don't send me anything but Slack. We're not going to commit. Once contracts is signed, we're going to give you a login to your Slack, and everything is on Slack, so that we don't have to deal with where was it? Was it a text? Was it a Facebook message? Did you private message me on Instagram? Right? Like, none of those things happen to us anymore. And it's actually been refreshing to know that if I need to look up a conversation, I go to one place and find it.
Yeah, and that has a good search function, right? Like that you can easily find it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that Ange brought up self-care, and then Dan talked about exams and finals, because that's something we kind of incorporate into that. So during the application process and the interview process, those are questions we ask. What is your self-care practices? How do you deal with stress? What supports will you need from us? Those sorts of things. And then sometimes people don't know. Sometimes people don't have that answer, and they're like, oh, I don't get stressed out, it's fine. And I mean, you're going to get stressed out at camp. So let's be real about it. So we're able to kind of incorporate that in and go, okay, well, between now and camp, think about it and like figure out how you deal with stress and what you can do. And having finals and stuff is, I think, part of that. And then they'll come back and go, oh yeah, I need a nap when I'm stressed or whatever, go for a run. Yeah.
I picked Dan.
I'll be quick. It's funny, so like I have year-round directors that work for me. Always every year or two, I have a new one that comes on because we have a decent sized team. And to try and educate on why this is important, I use the example of the dining hall. So if you've ever been at a meal at camp and they just had too many announcements during the meal, you never really feel like you're eating. Like you just feel like you're listening. You're eating, but you're not actually enjoying the meal. And that by paring down the announcements to a certain time and being concise about them. I love that Joe brought forward in Brilliant. It's a really great book to, like, I used to email all the time, and then I realized, when I email, people feel like they need to respond. So if I email at 1 a.m, I'm doing the thing I hate. And so then I got a program where I could decide what time the email gets. And so emails hit people's inboxes by 8:30 in the morning instead of them getting an email late at night. It's those little things.
That was a really smart thing that somebody said. Amanda, who's past podcast co-host, said that's one of her things too. She's developed the habit of not sending emails or delaying when emails go. So she again is giving exactly that message. And so if you look at Summer Camp Professionals, a question that I posed this week, there's a ton of smart answers about how do you deal with your own stress. And you can see Amanda's link to that. I'll make a little note. Maybe we'll try to get Matt to find it. Put that in the show notes. Also, Dan, can you chat message me the link to that Dan Pink podcast, and I'll
definitely.
And then we'll get Matt to throw that into the show notes.
Yeah,
Joe,
it's a great episode.
Yeah, Joe, you had something to say?
I did. It was every week I subscribe to the United Methodist Camp and Retreat Ministries s'more mail that they send out once a week. And what I found is it has great links to just stuff that's going on. And so today there's actually a link to a Dr. G webinar about anxiety in campers and parents and staff. And I thought, why do we don't need to keep this to ourselves as camp directors. We need to share this. If staff want to sit in on an hour-long webinar that's free, then let's let them do it. And so, we post that into Slack and say, hey, listen, this is good for everybody to know. And so it's free. You can register, and if you have 17-year-olds who are self-conscious and aware enough, 17, 18, 19-year-olds who can take that hour and watch a webinar about anxiety, then it'll help them in the long term as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to say that I am doing a show with Dr. G. Will be in the podcast feed immediately after this episode, so more recent in your feed, and talking about some cool stuff she's doing for camp. So you can look forward to more Dr. G stuff on CampHacker.
That's awesome.
I wanted to say that some of the things that come to me at this point in the year is that it can sometimes be frustrating when you feel like, man, I just repeat myself over and over and over again. It's important to say to yourself, the longer I do this job, the more there are more new people. And so you have to develop some patience with the fact that, like Angie said from the beginning, you've got to repeat messages from last year. If you have got a smart way to reuse those messages, if that's applicable, or set yourself up with the notes to redo your videos every year, whatever it is, remember that, think about your own longevity, but having to repeat the same things. I would also encourage, you've all sort of described this in your own little ways, but I would encourage you to think about messages being broken up into little pieces and delivered in different ways. So if you're doing Facebook Lives to cover stuff that's in your staff handbook, then great. Let's just think about ways to do it in different methods. Or, almost see if you get some staff who can create an audiobook of your staff manual. Just read it into a microphone and send it out as a podcast in chapters, something that will allow people with different learning styles to get it different ways depending on time. As camp directors, that if anyone has the choice, they won't read it. They will do anything to avoid reading a thing you send. So pick a medium, pick a different medium, but reinforce it with the text, or say, in the parent handbook that I sent you, or in the staff handbook that I sent you, there is that. So I think it's important to remember that we should break it up and make it exciting in different ways. Even if we are saving all of those for one day a week, which really I think is such a great Pierce Williams idea. I love that. A couple of things that folks have said that I wanted to just catch and make sure that they bring Gabin in a way. She's not able to join us, but she's presented some amazing ideas for this over the years, and a few I'd like to highlight. One is that feeling of overwhelm, and this is something to set up now, but will happen practically on the first day that staff arrives, that Waro brings in their returning staff a day ahead of time. So they get a day at camp. And I know camps do the reverse. They bring in a new camp staff for a day ahead of time and help them, see the lay of the land and just get an introduction to some of the customs. But Waro's philosophy is that you give staff, you want to encourage returning staff. You love in returning staff. So give them their moment of, just the glee of being back together again and all of that's not happening in front of new people, and therefore would be intimidating. But give them a chance to get to know each other, work in, and Waro does the same with campers. They bring in returning campers 3 hours ahead of new campers to get it out of the system, and then everybody switches together. The focus just pivots towards, all right, we're here to make the new people feel welcome. So that's some prep that has to happen now. That's one of the things that I would recommend. Well, I'm talking about awesome Gab stuff. We were in Chicago together last week, and she had these booklets that I begged her to let me have a copy of that I couldn't wait to share. It's just Gab and Jackie and the way they think of stuff, and then they put the nice design stuff of Gab's on it. It's not shiny from the camera. So if you're listening to this, what I'm showing is the Camp Waro pre-interview guide. So before you even have a staff interview, you get mailed a physical guidebook that is 20 pages long that talks about being unplugged at camp. Waro is all about 2 days in French and 2 days in English. So there's a lot of stuff about language and positive community. So they just set all these expectations before a staff interview even. So if you're still looking for staff, that's one of the things you can do to get people ready is they, as part of their interview process, actually find a way to test people that they've read this pre-interview guide. So that was cool. That's a little bit on the side of what we're doing. But they have 2 other staff books that they hand out. One is a staff manual. These are all sort of small. They're like half-page size, so 8.5 by 5. A little easier to fit in a bag or a backpack to keep with you. And it's because it's Gab. The design is stunning, and lots of cool history pieces. But they have taken the boring old staff manual that we used to try to make people sit down and read together for 15 minutes a day. They've broken it all up and made it all graphic and broken it into little pieces, been really thoughtful about things. So getting something like this together, maybe you're beginning the plan in April of ways to do that for later, but just really cool, thoughtful things to give them ahead of time and tools. One last thing is called the staff agenda. And so they get another book that allows them to plan what their days are. And it includes stuff for every day, things that they have to plan, regular stuff in the day. So at least every single day of the summer, they have some stuff ahead of time. Like, just mind-blowing how thoughtful and awesome they are. And if you look carefully, I know this is back for people on YouTube. look carefully at the top of the page, there's a circled letter. It would be F or E, depending on this is a French day or an English day.
Huh. That's
Um,
brilliant.
and so lots of really cool things that Gab does ahead of time to make sure staff shows up feeling empowered and feeling like they understand some things. You're in control of lots of things. I think that's the most important part, or the philosophy of this is you want your staff to feel in control. And when they're getting pulled in a lot of directions at this time of year, and everybody's been so thoughtful about this, give them small instructions, little pieces at a time to do that. Are there any things that you have found that you've been tweaking in the last 2 years that you're changing to make better in this process?
This year, so we use expert online training, and we do an online abuse prevention training. And I used to wait to send it until the beginning of May in attempts to not overwhelm them.
Yeah.
And I learned that was doing the opposite because of the time of year.
Mm.
So I started sending all of that as soon as I hire. So some of them have had it since January but then there's been a few that we just hired like last week that are getting it at this time. But that's a little bit unavoidable. But I used to wait so I could like batch create everything, and it was really more convenient for me. But I learned that it's better for the staff to send it. And even when some of them choose to not do anything until, I don't know, midday, they at least know that they had the choice. So to me, it's more just like modeling that back to that self-care and respecting their time.
Yeah, I just want to, EOT, I think is a brilliant platform and very smart. I think the self-care aspect is huge. We have to assume the best of our staff, and if they fail a test or they don't have time for every module, instead of just assuming the worst when they come in, I think that's a great opportunity to start coaching in a really considerate way. Just say, hey, I noticed you were behind on this compared to some other people. I'm not saying this to stress you out. How do I help you this upcoming summer? Is this something bigger, or do you have something else going on? I just wanted to have a conversation about that. Coming up with this benign approach instead of sometimes we view this as the proper tool to screen out the bad apples, I've heard some CampHackers say.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd work for you. I don't know how to say it.
Right.
Like that's not the considerate way we should be acting. But I think EOT is a brilliant platform. I think that we have to be conscious of how we're using it.
Great.
One of the things. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Patty, I'll be quite short. One of the opportunities I have as a speaker is to tell embarrassing stories about my life as a camp director. One of my biggest lessons from my first summer was from a counselor who I'd found very frustrating, who showed up late to a staff meeting. We actually hadn't showed up to a staff meeting half an hour in. And I sort of got the meeting going, set it on its own, and then I went storming off to find her to ask her, what was going on. And and it was, my frustration was very obvious. Let's say it that way. And she just turned to me and said, look, I've been in the laundry room doing a camper's laundry because they peed the bed, and I didn't want any of the other campers to know what was happening. And this is the only time I had to do it. And I was like, yes, thank you. I appreciate that lesson. I'm sorry you had to be the one to teach it to me. I'm sorry I didn't know it ahead of time. So I like that idea, Dan, of assuming the best or learning to ask first and not just assume. It's a great thing to establish as your own habit at this time of the year. So thank you for that. Patty.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say one of the things we started doing actually came from the staff and happened kind of organically. We had a new staff member who said, hey, I'd really like to chat with someone about camp more. I'm not in your province, so is there anyone nearby that can chat? So I set her up with a returning staff member. They went out for coffee. And then some of the head counselors heard about this, and they went on the Facebook group, and as you do, creeped all of the new people and kind of found out where they are and said, hey, can we invite them out to coffee and get to know them, and if they have any questions or anything. And so that's something that kind of ended up happening year after year. And I thought it was so lovely that the staff kind of made this happen.
Yeah.
It wasn't mandatory, they didn't have to go for coffee if they had other things going on, but they had that option to kind of chat with someone who'd been through it and who wasn't kind of old lady, boss man kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that went over really well with the new staff, because then when they got to staff training, they had someone that they knew and recognized, and they could kind of, feel more comfortable.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think, Travis, as we're in a unique position where most of our staff are within an hour to an hour and a half of our location and less are away at university. So at Pierce, we have a lot of high school staff as well as some university staff. I think that we are slowly tweaking things to be more meetups in the winter of last year's staff and potentially new staff. One of the things we discussed recently, you and Beth and myself and Matt were all at Buckeye recently. And I got this thought. Buckeye Leadership Workshop is a great conference that more camp people could use. It's different than anything you've ever experienced, trust me. But there, what you see large groups of youth coming from 4-H county sort of organizations. And what that has inspired me to think of, because I've stepped away from Buckeye for the year of committee, what it's caused me to think of is, can I find, let's say, 7 to 10 youth who are longtime campers with us as Pierce-Williams, who are approaching their CIT year, so will be in grade 9 next year, and can I somehow find funding to take all of them to Buckeye and see how that works over the next 5 to 6 years with training and teamwork and how they bring that back to their camp staff? Because it's a totally different game if you can get a core group that is just so positive and so inclusive and able to pass that on to the rest of your staff. And so that's one of the tweaks I'm just exploring right now.
Right. One thing I would add, and maybe I do take input from all of you. One thing I would add is in this conscious community that you create ahead of time, when you're lucky enough to have these electronic tools that we didn't have 10 years ago. One of the things I have found, and I often get asked how to manage an online community because of Camp Pros and what's happened there. And one of the things I think that's part of encouraging this or teaching people that there's value in returning to the online community, not just the paperwork, but as Joe said, he's dropping thoughts in there all the time, and is to ask a prompting question. So Angie talked about in the intro videos how you ask them what's called, Angie, an either or question. What's that?
Would you rather?
Would you rather? There you go.
Yeah.
So asking something that prompts them, it's not a yes or no question, that prompts people to ask those questions. So I alluded already to how much conversation there's been about how to manage your time this week. That's just because I dropped a question in there. I thought I'd like to see what the community has to say to that. So I would encourage people to do that. What would be a question that you would ask your staff to engage them that's not directly about their job?
I mean, I love the Lego question.
Yes.
As you know, Travis.
Yeah.
I like to ask people what they would do with an unlimited amount of Legos. It's just kind of a fun icebreaker.
Yep.
We also, I think we did it more than 1 year, but 1 year in particular stands out. We asked if there was anything you were nervous about. So it was kind of related to their job, but more specifically just about the summer. And one gal said that she was nervous that there were going to be a lot of mosquitoes, which led to this wonderful conversation about how there's not that many mosquitoes. This is where they go. But then Dragonfly Week happens.
Right. Yep.
All of the new staff got to hear about this magical Dragonfly Week. And so it kind of turned into something people were excited about. So yeah, just asking those prompting questions can sometimes lead to some gems.
Yep. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
We ask, we always post our packing, like it's a staff packing list separate from our camper packing list. And then I really throw it to the returners to like just list their favorite things that they bring to camp that are the most useful. Yeah. Because it's never what I put on the list. I try to like add every year and I never get to it. And that is fun because it starts like a whole conversation, and then the new staff tend to chime in and ask lots of questions, and it's a good conversation.
It is.
Yeah.
What would you ask, Joe?
My favorite thing to ask is often about what music or what book they're reading.
Yeah.
Because it tells you the sort of person they are and if they can communicate that. I ask that as an interview question as well, but I also like to ask just, strange things. I don't even know right now off the top of my head. I'm always amazed at staff who find out something new. There's so many things as longtime camp people that we know are just useful. And during the summer, staff are like, man, I wish I had known about that. Right.
Yeah.
So the idea of a headlamp instead of a flashlight seems to me to be something I've just known for 25 years.
Right.
But when people see you walking at them with a headlamp on, they're like, wow, like, where do you get one of those? And I was like, pretty much anywhere. But so we've started to ask what people have found useful at camp.
Yeah.
Right. And what they would put in their creativity bucket. We have this session that we do every few years where we give all of our staff a 5-gallon pail. And the 5-gallon pail with a lid is essentially everything they can use to entertain a group of kids, to debrief stuff, to whatnot. It becomes a seat if they need to sit on it, right? It's just something they can carry around and decorate as their own thing, which started years ago when I did leadership conferences in the early 90s. And the idea is, what would that go in your bucket, right? Like,
yeah.
So when I pull out of my bucket yo-yos, that's evident when they realize that that I have a website, Yo-Yo Joe, and that I don't have a camp name, but they, if I did, chances are it would be something about that. So I ask them what they find useful and what they find entertaining. And then I ask them if they can guess my favorite cheese, but
What is your favorite cheese?
Yeah, I want to know.
You have to guess.
I'm going to go Gouda.
Blue cheese.
Nope. I'm sure that it's somewhere online. Good luck finding it, people.
Search Joe favorite cheese.
I had a quick story. We had a camp staff member whose camp name was Cheesy, and he took 2 summers to figure out what my favorite cheese was.
Hilarious.
But in the end, he figured it out. So, yeah.
Excellent.
I'll leave it at that. We have to be entertaining.
Yes, let's make it a treasure hunt for CampHacker listeners.
Where's Joe's favorite cheese? In the fridge.
Dan, do you have a favorite prompting question to ask?
I do like to ask about music because I usually surprise people with my taste in music. I don't know if I'm typecasted because I'm a dad, but when I put on Instagram story that I love the new Cardi B album, the amount of messages I got was pretty amusing. Music is go-to. If we're talking about work, I try to engage in the creativity side more. So like, if you had $1 million, what would you buy for camp? Really try to start to get them to think limitless, for lack of better words. I've really been reflecting on the keynote from ACA National, Dan Heath with Magic Moments. So I actually was going to email I'm writing to my staff later, my leadership staff, with this podcast episode I found is going to be about how this summer we want to create magic moments, and I want you to come in thinking what's a magic moment you could create on a daily basis for somebody. That's typically what we go to. Like, it's usually what we're reading. I just start James Comey's new book, so I'm not going to be asking questions about that. But that's typically where my questions kind of come from.
Right. Brilliant. So one last question on this before we move on to the tool of the week. If you had you had one thing that you want staff to know, whether it's a sort of come in with this philosophy or bring this thing, what is a one essential that you want staff, one essential message you want to get across today for staff for the summer? How would you do that? What would you prioritize?
Years ago, I wrote about this, and my big thing is we're in the business of making memories. That's what we do. And whether or not that memory is positive or negative, you're still affecting the business, right? So we want to focus on those positive memories over the course of the year, but they need to know that every interaction can change a kid's life. Travis, you know this, right? You know that one counselor saying one thing to you can change the rest of your life as a camp person. The way one counselor handles your anger at a moment in time can change the rest of your life. The way somebody flippantly pushes you off can also change the rest of your camp life. So we're in the business of making memories, and you need to be careful to make sure that every interaction is trying to create a positive memory of camp for those kids. And that's heavy. That's heavy stuff. But, you know, I normally talk a bit about that at the end of staff training, right? That, you know, you now have a day before campers arrive. Put this in your brain bucket and figure out how you're going to move forward, knowing that this is what we're doing here. Everything we did this week is in training is about creating lasting memories that are positive.
I think for me, it would be that we want them to succeed. You know, we're rooting for them. We're supporting them. We're setting them up for success. And so if they have that knowledge going in, they're going to be confident and hopefully and feel secure that, you know, it's okay to fail and that we're not going to, you know, berate them or fire them or anything like that. So yeah, just that we're supporting them.
Excellent. Thanks, Patty. How about for you, Dan?
Yeah, along the same lines, just reiterating the message that we're confident in the hiring decision we made and that we believe in them and that we're going to do our best to take care of you as we want you to take care of the kids, and that we just need you to be committed and here. The biggest thing is just making sure that they walk in the door and know that they're here to work and we will graciously take care of them in that. And that if you try to schedule 2 online classes while you're at camp, it's probably not going to do well. And I'm seeing this more and more with camp staff saying, I think I could do an online class. And I'm like, I don't think you should try.
No.
You know, we haven't made it part of their contract that they can't do it. But I'm watching this trend grow, particularly with the staff. So we always go back to, you have to be committed to here. If you're committed to here, we will take care of you all the way. You have nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm. How about for you, Angie? What do you?
This summer in particular, I would want my staff to hear that they need to get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. I have a big turnover year, so I have 3 returning staff, and the rest of mine that I've ended up hiring are pretty young. So really echoing off of kind of what everybody else said, which is like, you know, we don't expect you to know how to do this job yet. That's what the week of training is for. And that we hired you for you, and that being a camp counselor has way more to do with like how you show up and who you be and your essence than it does knowing, you know, all these little details, so that we're confident in them and it's going to be fun. So,
yeah, that's funny. My thing's kind of the same. It's like, we expect you to do hard things, and we're going to ask you to do things that you may not think you're capable of, but we know from experience that you're capable of, and we're able to judge what you're capable of. And so that's my thing. We're going to expect you to do hard things, and we won't do things that we know that you're not capable of. I would, of course, do the training involved in that so that that they know that we'll be there to support, and we prove to them that we can support them. But that I think is the one thing I would share. All right, I'm gonna to move us on, unless anyone raises a finger because they have one last thing they would like to say about this topic. Patty, please.
Just that one of the things that we did one summer was prior to, it might have been like kind of anywhere between February and May kind of thing when camp started, but we asked staff for the camp that I worked at previously was an Easter Seals camp for people with disabilities. And so we asked staff to send us a photo, to do a Google search, send us a photo of someone with a disability. And that was it. And we turned that into a training workshop. And it was so exciting for them when they got there, and they were like, what are you doing with the picture? And they were all kind of wondering, and it created some excitement and buy-in in the preseason, because they were like, they're up to something. So just little tweaks like that, I think, are useful. Yeah, just, involving them.
Creating mystery is so powerful. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Dan?
Yeah. If you can't pull off any of this, and you're overwhelmed, and this list is great, but you can't do it, the simplest thing you could do is just individually message your staff and ask them, how are they? Just go back to being a considerate person and asking them how they are. I can't tell you how many times I noticed somebody post something online, and there's some in context, and I just wrote, hey, I just wanted to check in and see how you are, and nothing unprompted other than that. And that, it goes back to relationship building. That gets them more excited for camp than anything else.
Yeah. Amen. I've written this down, forgot to say that I love that idea so much. I know that camp directors are getting amazing feedback and connection with their staff that's coming to camp by using that Bonjoro app that I talked about before, that allow you to send free personalized videos to people. And you can find the link to that in the show notes, but it really accomplishes that one thing. It's like, if I can be thoughtful to this one person, it takes me 60 seconds and can have an impact, as Joe said, that you can have an impact that lasts and lasts, just by proving that you're a thoughtful person and that you care about the relationship, as Dan said. So great place to leave that off. Thank you, Dan. So then at this time, we're going to move on to our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
So if you are joining for the first time, if you've been drawn in because you're a friend of Angie's or you listen to Patty's podcast and you're here for the first time, our tool of the week is we ask each panel to bring something to the discussion that makes them a better camp director. And Angie, I'm going to make you go last because I like yours so much. And it's been a pleasure to watch your tool work for you this year. I am, and this is a discussion with Joe too. Joe, one of your long-term tools of the week was a Levenger pocket briefcase, shirt pocket briefcase.
Yeah. Still.
You still use yours?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, awesome. So that is a tool that we'll throw in there as a repeat because it's a good one. But I found an inexpensive version because I live my life with recipe cards available for all sorts of stuff. I found a $12 version of it that's plastic. It's not leather. And I don't imagine it would last much more than one season, but for $12, it's okay with me. It is just a thing I throw in my back pocket with space to jam some stuff in. But the real magic is that I have space to hold lots of recipe cards for taking my own notes, for notes to pass off to people. In our case, passing notes back and forth to Beth. But as a camp director, I would be always leaving notes for people of appreciation or, stuff that we'd agreed on to do. Or if staff showed up to a discussion without their own pen and notebook, I would give them a recipe card and give them some instructions to do that. So I'll put that in there. It's called the Oxford, it's like the Oxford note card hold all or something like that, but you'll see it in the things. Are you going to add something to that, Joe?
I was just trying to think, Travis, of how long Kix was my camp director, and when she left, she gave me a Levenger. It's a wallet with the note cards in it. And I think I'm 7 or 8 years into using it, and it literally looks almost brand new. And so if you do want something that's going to last long term, I wouldn't have any problem recommending it again.
Yeah, it's expensive though. It's 60 to 80 bucks American for it, but it's real leather and it will last forever. And yeah, cool. Thank you. So Joe, what is your tool for today?
My tool for today is tempered glass covers for your cell phone. I know that I don't always bring the most exciting tools of the week, but what I try to do is figure out, what I try to do is figure out something that I actually use every day that I don't think about. And Travis, you and I for years have had this conversation, right, where you forget about something and you're like, well, everybody should know about that.
Yes.
I think I started with my Nexus. My Nexus is 2.5, 3 years old now. And I started with it putting tempered glass covers on. I've never broken a phone screen on any of my phones. But my kids had on old iPods or old iPhones that we had broken it. So when we replaced theirs 2 years ago, the deal was you have to have a tempered cover on and you have to use one of the cases I approve. And it's literally their phones. When I take that tempered glass cover off, they look brand new. And I've met so many camp people and so many professionals, with air quotes, professionals, who if you bring your phone out in front of another professional and it's got a fully cracked screen, you're not going to look as professional as you think. And so what I would argue, Neva also, is that you should get a tempered glass cover for your phone. And I just checked on Amazon for an iPhone 8. They're $10.99 for two of them Canadian. So I can only assume they're drastically cheaper in the States. But it's literally keeps your phone. When you pop it off to put a new one on, you're like, I don't need a new one because my phone looks new. But if I don't put a new one on, I'm going to crack the screen.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Patty, what's your tool of the week?
Mine is such a simple thing. It's a gratitude journal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a huge, huge fan of showing gratitude and just, being grateful in life. But it made a huge difference for me at camp. So at the end of the day, you've had a long day, you've been working for 18 plus hours potentially, and you just want to go to bed and you're kind of grumpy because whatever happened. But if you can sit down and write down 5 things that you're grateful for, just 5 things, then it can really change your perspective on the day and just focusing on those positive things. And so you can buy them, but I just use kind of a little notebook that I, bought at the dollar store or something, and typically will fill like a page or 2. But I think even just starting that practice of doing 5 things, sitting down for 2 minutes, makes a world of difference in terms of, again, back to the self-care piece, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, gratitude journal.
I keep mine beside my desk.
Hey, nice.
Thanks, Patty. Dan, what's your tool?
Sorry, I was on mute. I have the emerging task planner. So I pick one of these up every spring. It is a notebook that is essentially what Gab was doing with the staff manual. It's pre-filled in terms of framing your tasks. So I really appreciate it because basically every day I find a lot of solace in looking at what I did the day before and seeing that I did accomplish something, and then helps me reprioritize the next day. So basically just use a page for each day, and then it's great. As the day goes on, I add more tasks, then the next day I just revamp it, and it goes well.
Cool. Excellent. Thanks, Dan. So Angie, you have a cool tool that you've been using a lot since the new year.
I have, yes. So I've been using Facebook Live, and at first couldn't quite convince my boss to use it for our camp. So I just kind of jumped off on my own side project and created a social media platform called Heart of Educators to really encourage educators, both school teachers, camp people, anybody, to remember that we have to self-care, which I think as an industry we're not really great at, which I think is fun that we talked about it so much today.
Yeah.
And to remember, like, we hold space, so we really have to kind of clear out our own selves so that we can guide everybody else and do the best we can at that. And so I started Facebook Live basically to just kind of start throwing out little tidbits, and it's been really fun because one, I saw how much it can reach and how far it can go, and I ultimately feel like I don't know what I'm doing. So I think that you can really utilize it as a camp director to engage your parent community, your alumni community. It's also helped me become even better at having a really clear, concise message.
Yeah.
It's also just helped like me. We're really small. So as a camp, I really miss teaching during the year. I miss that engagement. And so it's also helped me just give myself something to be able to teach and engage with people that I was missing for so many years as I was like running the site and everything. So it's been a fun little adventure, but Facebook Live's definitely a pretty cool tool. And I think that it could be utilized to engage with your camp community.
Yeah. And have you found that people are watching and rewatching staff or rewatching the videos that you've done?
Yeah, what I found is that I don't really have a whole lot of people besides people I know, like my friends or my family that'll pop on while I'm doing it, which is actually helps me because it's a little less nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And that then on the engagement wise, I get some shares, I get some comments, and just mostly a lot of views. So I'm still kind of learning that aspect of how to even increase the engagement further. But I'm seeing that people really I'm getting a lot of views and a lot of watches on it.
Right. And Angie, do you use the scheduling feature in Facebook so people can sign up to get reminders and things? Or do you just say, I'm going to be on at this time?
Right now, I just say that I'm going to be on at this time. And then I will usually reshare it. So I might wait and then reshare it. And it usually helps kind of with the algorithm to pop back up. But also Facebook really likes their own videos. So you have to either use live or upload directly to Facebook. Like uploading YouTube videos to Facebook is not going to help you out at all with their algorithm.
Cool. I've certainly found from mine, if you can schedule it with your page and or your group, it will send out notifications quite well. The other thing that's probably not very commonly known, but with Zoom, you can do this style of Facebook Live where you bring in others and you're hosting it to your page. So you can have a panel, you could bring in some senior staff or some alumni to help your lessons from alumni for your camp staff. There's lots of great tools for it. So I am 95% sure that even happens with the free Zoom, that you can do the live stuff. So Dan says yes, that you can use it as that way. So thank you, Angie. I love watching it. It was fun to tune into a couple of those this year and see it while it was live. So I appreciate that. Awesome. Angie, if people have follow-up questions from stuff you've said or about your Facebook Live experience, how should they reach out to you?
You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Heart of Educators, and my email at camp is the best way to email me. It's Angie@camplanternCreek.com.
Angie, I thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Patty, how can people reach out to you if they have questions?
People can find me at thecampnerd.com and as the Camp Nerd across all social media. And from my website, you can get to Patchwork and the podcast and all of that stuff.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being on for this first time, Patty. It's great.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me. It was fun.
It was a pleasure. Joe, how can people follow up with you?
The best way is probably just through my website. So yoyojoe, yoyojoe.com, which leads to social media. And you can see what we do here at Pierce Williams by going to campisbetter.com. Life is good. Camp is better.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Dan?
Yeah. So I work at Frost Valley YMCA, so it's frostvalley.org, and you can just email me at campdirector@frostvalley.org, or you can find me on social media at Dan Loves Camp and all the handles on that one. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Great. Well, I thank you all for being a part of this. I really enjoyed this discussion. I feel like every time I say, I really love this discussion. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a listener or a YouTube watcher. We always appreciate any comments that we get or any feedback. You can send that to travis@camphacker.tv. And thanks for letting your awesome out, Camp Mavericks. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The Camp Hacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening. Camp Hacker, bringing your world into focus.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.